When the lights went out, Marilyn Monroe froze in front of the mirror. The envelope in her hand was trembling. The photographs inside could destroy Hollywood's most powerful names. But what she didn't know in that moment was that this envelope would change her own life forever. 62, Los Angeles. Marilyn Monroe was late again for the filming of Something's Got to Give. When she entered her dressing room, makeup artist Whitey Snyder greeted her with concern. "Marilyn, the studio head is going crazy. This is the third day in a row you're late." Marilyn sat in front of the mirror looking at the dark circles under her eyes. She had barely slept in recent days. At night the phone would ring, the voice sounded familiar, but the speaker never said who they were. "Be careful, Norma Jean," the voice would say. "What you know is dangerous." When Whitey started on her makeup, Marilyn noticed something behind the wardrobe. A small brown envelope. There was no address on it. Just a handwritten note. "Don't open it, but keep it safe." Her heart began to race. Who had put this envelope here? Marilyn quickly grabbed the envelope and shoved it to the bottom of her purse. But curiosity was eating her from the inside. Nothing went right on set that day. She forgot her lines, laughed in the wrong places, missed camera angles. Studio employees were whispering, "She's not what she used to be." By evening, Marilyn returned to her home in Brentwood. She went straight upstairs to her bedroom and locked the door. She opened the envelope with trembling hands. 3 photographs fell out. When she saw the first one, her breath caught. One of Hollywood's most powerful studio heads. But it wasn't just him in the photo. Next to him was a young girl, maybe 16 years old. And the scene. Marilyn's stomach turned. The second photo was worse. A producer, someone Marilyn had worked with, trusted. When she saw the third photo, her world spun. This time she was in the photo. But she didn't remember when it was taken. At the bottom of the envelope was another small note. "These are just the beginning. There are more than 50. We're keeping them safe until you speak up. But be careful. They're everywhere." Marilyn dropped the photos to the floor. Her hands were shaking. Was this blackmail? Or was someone trying to help her? The phone rang. Marilyn flinched. It rang 10 times, then stopped. A minute later it rang again. This time she answered. "Hello? You got the envelope. Who's calling?" "That's not important. What's important is that those photos could change Hollywood forever. But first you need to make a decision." "What decision? Will you speak up? Or will you stay silent like they want you to?" The line went dead. But the truly shocking thing was the second phone call Marilyn received that night. Marilyn couldn't sleep that night. The photos were in the nightstand drawer, hidden among old makeup supplies. Her mind went back to the past. 1946. Norma Jean Baker had just started modeling. It had been years since she left the orphanage, but the feeling of loneliness never went away. "Sweetheart, if you want to succeed in this business, you need to learn some rules," a producer had said. "Talent isn't enough in this town. You need connections. You need protection." Years passed. Norma Jean became Marilyn Monroe. Platinum blonde hair, red lips, that famous smile. Everyone wanted her, but no one understood her. Studios gave her the dumb blonde role over and over again. "I can do Shakespeare," she begged directors. "I want serious roles." "Marilyn, you're a box office record-breaking sex symbol," they said. Don't waste that, but Marilyn was thinking. She was thinking a lot, and she didn't forget what she saw at parties. How producers looked at young girls, what happened behind closed doors, and how they were all silenced. One girl had dared to speak up once, an aspiring actress named Jean. She was 19 years old. She had gone to the police to tell them what a producer had done to her. A week later, Jean disappeared. Official statement: she had a nervous breakdown, returned to Kansas with her family. But Marilyn knew the truth. Jean was never seen in the film world again. Now, years later, she had photographs. She had evidence. But what could she do? The phone rang again. It was 5 in the morning. "Marilyn, it's me. Peter Lawford, her actor friend, close to the Kennedy family." "Peter, it's 5 in the morning. I know, but I need to talk to you, urgent. Meet me at my place in Malibu today at noon. Come alone." "What happened?" "I can't talk on the phone." "But Marilyn, be careful. They're talking about you." "Who's talking?" "Everyone." The line went dead. Right at this moment, everything changed. Because when Marilyn went to Peter's house that afternoon, Peter wasn't the only one waiting for her. Around noon, Marilyn arrived at Peter Lawford's Malibu house with sunglasses and a headscarf. Peter opened the door looking tense. "Come in quickly." The living room was empty, but there were sounds coming from the kitchen. A man emerged from the kitchen, middle-aged in a suit, serious features. "Miss Monroe, I'm on Agent Robert Kennedy's team, FBI." Marilyn's hair stood on end. "FBI, what? What do you want?" The man pulled out a file. "We want to talk about an envelope that was left at your house last week." Marilyn froze. How did they know? There are photographs. Photographs that could jeopardize Hollywood's highest-level names, and you're currently in the middle of a very dangerous game. Marilyn collapsed into a chair. "I didn't do anything. That envelope just... I found it, we know. But the person who left that envelope wants you to speak up. They're trying to use you as a tool." "Who? Who's doing this?" Peter walked to the window. "Marilyn, do you know certain things? Private parties, meetings, maybe you've heard names." Marilyn thought of those parties. Meetings with the Kennedys. Private yachts, closed villas, politicians, businessmen, Hollywood names. And what was discussed? Marilyn remembered it all. I heard some things, yes." The FBI agent leaned forward. "What did you hear?" I don't understand." "Why are you interrogating me?" "Because, Miss Monroe, you possess dangerous information. And some people want you to stay silent. Others want you to speak. You'll decide which side you're on," Peter said. Marilyn jumped to her feet. "Decide? I'm just an actress." "I don't want to be in political games." "But you are," the FBI agent said in a cold voice. "Whether you want to be or not, you're in it now." Marilyn walked to the door. "I need to go." But Marilyn didn't listen. She got in her car and drove away quickly. When she got home, Mrs. Murray greeted her with concern. "Miss Monroe, a package was left for you, right at the front door." She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a cassette tape and a note. "Listen to this tape, then decide." Marilyn placed the cassette in the tape player. Wait a minute, don't miss this detail. Because what she was about to hear on that tape would turn Marilyn's entire world upside down. The voice on the tape was high-pitched, belonging to a young woman. It was clear she was crying as she spoke. "My name is Susan. If you're listening to this tape, I probably can't speak anymore. Either I've been silenced or... worse." Marilyn held her breath. "I came to Hollywood a year ago. I wanted to be a star, like everyone. But no one told me the truth. No one told me what it would cost." The voice trembled. "When I went to my first casting, the producer looked at me, smiled, said, 'You're talented.' Then he called me to his office and... A long silence. Then she continued, 'I'm just one, but there are hundreds more girls. All of us experienced the same thing, but we can't speak, because they're too powerful. They're everywhere.'" The voice paused. "But you're different, Miss Monroe. You're famous. They'll listen to you. They'll believe you. That's why we're sending you this tape and the photos. Please, please be our voice. Please don't stay silent." The tape cut off. Marilyn stopped the tape player. Her hands were shaking. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. Susan. She didn't know who she was, but she knew her story. Because she had heard similar stories many times. She had even lived it herself. Years ago, when Norma Jean was still nobody, she went to a producer's office. She remembered how the man approached, how he touched her, how he threatened her. "If you do this, you'll become a star. If you don't..." The door's right there. Norma Jean had done it that day, because she had no other choice. But now she was Marilyn Monroe. She was famous. She was powerful. Maybe she hoped she could make her voice heard. The phone rang. That voice again. "You listen to the tape. Who is this girl? Who is Susan? She's not important anymore. What's important is that you decide. Will you speak? If I speak, if I reveal these photos, what happens? The system collapses. Hollywood's most powerful names fall. But you become a target too. What if I don't speak? Then we all disappear. Like Susan, like Jean, like the others. I need to think. You don't have time, Miss Monroe. Tomorrow night there's a gala. All of Hollywood will be there. The names in those photos too. You'll make your decision there. What do you mean? If you come to the gala and speak, we'll also give all the photos to the press. We'll protect you. What if I don't speak? A long silence. Then the answer came. Then what happened to Susan will happen to you too. The line went dead. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. Because the next day when Marilyn went to the studio, the person waiting for her on set. The next morning when Marilyn went to the studio, everything was quieter than usual. The technical crew was whispering, avoiding eye contact. When she entered, the man was sitting at his desk. He took a deep drag from his cigarette. "Sit down, Marilyn." Marilyn sat. Her hands were shaking, but there was a calm expression on her face. "Marilyn, I've been hearing some rumors lately. About you." The man leaned forward. His eyes were cold. "Marilyn, you're a smart woman, so I'll speak plainly. This studio has given you a lot. Money, fame, career. But these can disappear in an instant. Do I make myself clear? Are you threatening me?" "No, sweetheart. I'm telling you the truth. This industry stands on a delicate balance. Some people are trying to upset that balance. Don't be one of them." Marilyn stood up. "I'm just an actress. I don't know what you want." "Then listen carefully. You'll attend tomorrow night's gala. You'll wear a beautiful dress, smile on the red carpet, give interviews, and then you'll go home quietly. Do I make myself clear? What if I don't attend?" The man put out his cigarette. "Then you'll be removed from the film. Your contract with the studio will be terminated, and you'll never work in Hollywood again. But that's the simplest scenario. Worse things could happen." Marilyn's insides trembled, but she didn't show it on her face. "I understand." When Marilyn left the office, her legs could barely carry her. In the hallway, she ran into Peter Lawford. "Marilyn, I need to talk to you." "Peter, right now." "This is very important. The FBI agent wants to see you again." "No, I don't want to be in this." But Marilyn didn't listen. She rushed outside. When she got home, Mrs. Murray said another package had been left. This time it contained a dress, a red magnificent evening gown, and a note. "Wear this tomorrow night and speak." Marilyn threw the dress on the bed. She started crying. "Why me?" she screamed. "Why always me?" But deep down she knew the answer. 'Cause she was Marilyn Monroe, the world's most famous woman, and maybe the only one who could speak. What you're seeing now is nothing, because when gala night arrived, the decision Marilyn would make would change not just her own life but Hollywood's entire future. Gala night arrived. In front of Grauman's Chinese Theater in Beverly Hills, the red carpet had been rolled out. Flashes were popping, reporters were shouting, the crowd was screaming. Marilyn sat in the limousine, clutching the fabric of her dress. She had put on the red dress after all, but underneath she was carrying that envelope. The photos were at the bottom of her purse. The driver turned around. "Miss Monroe, are you ready?" Marilyn took a deep breath. Yes, the door opened. Flashes exploded. Screams rose. "Marilyn! Marilyn, look here!" Marilyn smiled. That famous Marilyn Monroe smile. But inside she was breaking apart. As she walked down the red carpet, she looked at the people around her. The studio head was there. Peter Lawford stood in the corner, watching with concern. The FBI agent was in the crowd, and the other names from the photos, they were all there. Producers, directors, filmmakers. Powerful men, all looking at Marilyn. A reporter extended a microphone. "Marilyn, you look beautiful tonight. What are you feeling this evening?" Marilyn stopped. She looked at the microphone. Something welled up inside her. Susan's voice, Jean's story, all those young girls' screams. She began. The studio head approached, grabbed her arm. "Marilyn is very tired. Please make way." "No," Marilyn said in a sharp voice. "I want to speak." The area fell silent. Reporters pushed the microphone forward. "I've been working in this industry for 15 years, Marilyn said. Her voice was trembling, but her words were clear. "And in that time, I've seen a lot. I've experienced a lot. But what I've seen most was silence." "Marilyn, please," the studio head whispered. But Marilyn continued. "Young girls come to this town with dreams. They want to be stars, but no one tells them the truth. No one tells them what it will cost." "Enough," the studio head shouted. He signaled to security. "Miss Monroe is ill. Take her inside." 2 security guards approached Marilyn. "No," Marilyn screamed. She opened her purse, pulled out the envelope. "Don't you all want to see the truth? In these photos." But at that moment, someone snatched the envelope from Marilyn's hand. It was Peter Lawford. "Marilyn, don't do this," he whispered. "We can't protect you. But these people, I know. But not now. Not like this." Marilyn looked into Peter's eyes. There was fear in them. But something else too. Sadness. Helplessness. Reporters were whispering. Flashes had exploded. The studio head took the microphone. "We apologize, Miss Monroe is very tired. She's been through an intense filming period. Please understand." Marilyn was taken inside by security guards. She was taken to a back room of the theater. Left alone, she sat down, put her head in her hands. "What have I done?" she whispered. "Why couldn't I speak?" The door opened. The FBI agent came in. "Miss Monroe, you made a very risky move. I couldn't even speak, but you showed your intention. That's enough. Now they know you're a threat." Marilyn raised her head. "What should I do?" "You need to stay out of sight for a while. We can protect you, but what?" "But those photos are gone now. Peter Lawford took them." Marilyn's heart sank. "Peter? But he was my friend." "Peter works for the Kennedy family, Miss Monroe, and the Kennedy family doesn't want those photos to come out either." "So they were all on the same side?" The agent didn't answer. Marilyn stood up. "I'm going home." Marilyn left the theater through the back door. She went home. Mrs. Murray greeted her with concern. "Miss Monroe, are you all right?" "Nothing, Mrs. Murray. I'm just very tired." She went up to her room. Finally, she collapsed on the floor and started crying. Norma Jean had returned. That small, scared, helpless girl. The phone rang. Marilyn didn't answer. Then there was a knock at the door. "Is Miss Monroe home?" Marilyn locked the door. But she knew locks wouldn't help. They always found a way. You won't believe this, but what Marilyn found at her door the next morning would make everything even more complicated. When morning came, Marilyn hadn't slept. When she looked in the mirror, she couldn't recognize herself. "Who did you become?" she whispered. Mrs. Murray knocked on the door. "Miss Monroe, there's a letter for you." Marilyn opened the door, took the envelope. It was a white envelope this time. Only her name was written on it, Norma Jean. Her heart began to race. No one had called her by that name in years. She opened the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten. "Dear Norma Jean, I know you're very scared. I know you feel alone, but you were never alone. We were always here. There are hundreds of us, thousands of us. We all stayed silent just like you. You couldn't speak last night. But it doesn't matter, because just by trying to speak, you changed something. People started to wonder, started asking questions. Is this enough? No, but it's a start. You don't have to be a hero, Norma Jean. You just have to survive. And if you survive, maybe one day you can really speak. But not now. Now just protect yourself. We have copies of the photos. They're safe. When the time comes, they'll come out too. But it's not your time now. Live, Norma Jean. Just live. Susan." As Marilyn read the letter, tears streamed down her cheeks. Susan. That young girl. That brave girl. "Where are you, Susan?" she whispered. That day, Marilyn didn't go anywhere. When evening came, she turned on the television. The news had started. Last night at the Beverly Hills Gala, Hollywood's legendary star Marilyn Monroe made controversial statements. Monroe began talking about exploitation of young actors and actresses in the industry, but couldn't complete her statements. The anchor continued. However, this incident caused a major stir in Hollywood. Some journalists and activists argue that the truths Monroe wanted to tell should be investigated. Marilyn turned off the television. Something had changed. Even if small, something had, but it wouldn't be enough. It would never be enough. A week passed. Marilyn stayed locked in her house. The studio put her on indefinite leave. Peter Lawford called many times. Marilyn didn't answer. The FBI agent came to her door. Marilyn didn't let him in. She was alone. Completely alone. One night, Marilyn sat in front of the mirror. She wiped off her makeup, took off her wig. Marilyn Monroe disappeared. Norma Jean remained. "Hello, Norma," she said to herself. "We haven't talked in a long time." She looked at herself in the mirror. Her bare face, her real hair color. "Who are you?" she asked the mirror. "Are you Marilyn? Or are you Norma Jean?" That night she made a decision. She wouldn't be a hero or a victim. She would find a third way. The next morning she hired a lawyer. Experienced, reliable. She told him everything. The lawyer listened. Then he said, "Miss Monroe, you have two options. Either you completely withdraw, stay silent, or you fight, but this fight will destroy you." "Isn't there a third way?" the lawyer thought. Maybe there's a way, but it's risky. Tell me." "You don't speak. But someone else does. An anonymous source. We leaked the documents, the photos to a journalist." "But your name isn't mentioned," Marilyn thought. "But then I'm not protected either." You're not exactly protected, but you avoid being a target, at least for a while. But the photos are with Peter Lawford. How will we get them? The lawyer smiled. I'm a lawyer, Miss Monroe. We'll get them somehow. Just when they thought it was over, Marilyn's plan kicked in, and no one expected what happened. 2 weeks later, a story appeared in the Los Angeles Times. On the front page, in large print, sexual abuse allegations in Hollywood. Anonymous source provides bombshell documents. The story continued. An unidentified Hollywood star has provided our newspaper with photographs and audio recordings documenting systematic sexual abuse cases that have been ongoing in the industry for years. Marilyn's hands were shaking as she read the newspaper. It had happened. Finally, it had happened. She turned on the television. The same news on every channel. The phone rang. Marilyn answered. Did you see? It was the lawyer's voice. It worked. But how did you get the photos? We entered Peter Lawford's house. Legally, of course. We had a search warrant. Marilyn took a deep breath. What happens now? Now a storm will break, but you stay silent. Don't give interviews, don't make statements. For how long? At least 6 months, maybe a year. Marilyn hung up the phone. She looked out the window. The sun was shining, but at that moment there was a knock at the door, violently. Miss Monroe. Police, open the door! Marilyn froze. Police? Why? When she opened the door, 2 police officers were standing there. Miss Monroe, you need to come with us. Why? I didn't do anything. We are tasked with arresting you for illegal distribution of sexually explicit materials and libel. Marilyn was in shock. How could this be? They put handcuffs on her, put her in the car. Reporters had somehow already heard and arrived. Flashes exploded. Marilyn Monroe arrested! As Marilyn sat in the car, her head was spinning. Everything had turned upside down. She was taken to the police station, interrogated. It lasted hours. Marilyn, this is a trap. They want to silence you. But I didn't do anything. I know, but they're going to take you to court to prove this. Marilyn put her head in her hands. What should I do? We have to fight. But it will be a long and difficult battle. The trial process lasted 3 months. Every day there were stories in the newspapers. Public opinion was divided. Some saw Marilyn as a hero. Others accused her. Marilyn went to court every day. Every day she was bombarded with questions. One day after court, she ran into a young girl, maybe 20 years old. She approached Marilyn, took her hand. Thank you, she said. Tears were streaming from her eyes. Because you spoke up. I found courage, too. I also filed a complaint. I reported the producer who abused me. Marilyn squeezed the girl's hand. You did good. Very good, but you lost so much. Your career, your fame. Marilyn smiled. A bitter smile. Maybe I lost, but maybe I gained. Maybe for the first time I found myself. The girl hugged her. They hugged for a long time. That night when Marilyn got home, she looked in the mirror. Marilyn Monroe was still there. But Norma Jean was there too, both together in peace. Hello, she said to the mirror. My name is Norma Jean, but some people call me Marilyn. And I'm just myself now. The final day of the trial arrived. The jury would give its verdict. Marilyn sat in the defendant's chair. The judge took the bench. The jury has reached a verdict. What is the verdict? The jury foreman stood up. On the charge of illegal distribution of sexually explicit materials. Guilty. Marilyn's heart sank. On the charge of libel. Not guilty. Whispers rose in the courtroom. The judge continued. Miss Monroe, according to the jury's decision, the distribution of the photographs has been found to be against the law. However, the libel charge has been rejected. This means the events shown in the photographs are real and what you did was not slander but exposing the truth. The room erupted. The judge banged the gavel. Silence. Miss Monroe, your sentence will be probation and community service. However, this court recommends that an official investigation be initiated regarding systemic abuse in the Hollywood industry. Marilyn was in shock. She had been found guilty, yes, but she had also been vindicated. When she left the courtroom, a crowd was waiting. There were hundreds of people, most of them young women. They were carrying signs. Thank you, Marilyn. You are our voice. Real heroes get blamed. Marilyn started crying. but this time they were tears of happiness. A reporter extended a microphone. "Miss Monroe, what will you do now?" Marilyn took a deep breath. Now I'm going to live. For the first time, I'm really going to live." 6 months passed. Marilyn Monroe stayed away from Hollywood. Her career had stopped. No studio wanted to work with her. But strangely, she had never been this peaceful. She rented a small house by the beach. In the mornings, she looked at the ocean. In the evenings, she read books. One day, there was a knock at her door. When she opened it, she was surprised. It was Susan. You're real," Marilyn said. Susan smiled. "Yes, I'm real. But how? Where were you?" "I was hiding. For a long time. But now it's safe. Because of you." After the trial, an investigation started. Many names were arrested. The system is starting to change. Marilyn let Susan inside. They talked for hours. "Do you regret it?" Susan asked. "You lost your career. You lost your fame." Marilyn thought. My whole life I tried to be Marilyn Monroe, but I never succeeded. Because Marilyn Monroe is a mask, a dream, an illusion. But Norma Jean, she's real. And maybe for the first time I'm happy as Norma Jean." Susan took her hand. "You became a hero." "No," Marilyn said. "I just survived. And sometimes surviving is the greatest heroism." Toward the end of 1962, a major cleanup began in Hollywood. Dozens of names resigned. Dozens of investigations were opened. New laws were passed. New systems were established to protect young actors and actresses. Marilyn Monroe never regained her former fame. No studio gave her roles. But she didn't want them anyway. She acted in small theaters. She took roles in independent films. And most importantly, she mentored young women. Years later, she was asked in an interview, "Do you regret it? Starting to speak that night?" Marilyn smiled. That old famous smile. But this time it was real. For many years I tried to kill Norma Jean to be Marilyn Monroe. But that night I realized that Marilyn Monroe can only exist if Norma Jean lives. And yes, I lost everything. But I found myself. Isn't that worth the trade? The reporter asked, "So what was Hollywood's biggest secret? The one you knew but couldn't tell?" Marilyn didn't answer for a long time. Then she said, "Hollywood's biggest secret is this. The brighter the lights, the darker the shadows. And those who get lost in those shadows, no one sees them. No one hears them. Until someone speaks, I spoke. And maybe I didn't save everyone, but at least I tried. At least I didn't stay silent. And is that enough for you?" Marilyn looked out the window. The sun was setting. Golden light illuminated the ocean. "No," she said quietly. "It's never enough. But it's a beginning. And sometimes beginnings are more important than endings." Marilyn Monroe died in August of 1962. Official report: overdose, suicide. But the truth was never clarified. Before her death, she had left an envelope with her lawyer. Inside were copies of all the documents, all the stories, all the names, and a note. "If I die, release these. If I'm alive, burn them. Because some secrets cost a life." The lawyer didn't open the envelope. He didn't burn the documents either. He left them as a legacy. For future generations. But that big secret that Marilyn Monroe knew but couldn't tell? Maybe the secret was this. In Hollywood, everyone knows something. Everyone sees something, but no one speaks. Because to speak means to cease to exist. And Marilyn Monroe spoke. That's why she would be remembered forever, not just as a beautiful face, as a brave voice, not as a star shining under the lights, as a candle burning in the darkness, not as Marilyn Monroe, as Norma Jean, as a real human being. From a note in Marilyn's will: "Don't forget me, but please don't remember me just as a beautiful face. Remember me as someone who spoke, someone who resisted, someone who lived. Because I wasn't just Marilyn Monroe. I was Norma Jean, and she was real."